Today I'll be showing you how to build a very fast and reliable item categorizer for Minecraft Bedrock Edition. This is a sorting and storage system that uses categories to sort all of your items, and it's incredibly easy to build. This system is also really fast, sorting 13,000 plus items per hour, where most other systems only sort a couple thousand items an hour. Not only is this system incredibly fast, it's also highly customizable. You can make it any size or shape that you want, and you can add or remove modules as you see fit, and no matter what size you build it, it's always going to sort at the same speed, which is a great bonus that most other systems don't have. And let's see how the system works. So we're going to throw just a bunch of random junk into our input chest. As you can see, it takes the items out of the input chest incredibly quickly. We're using hopper minecarts, which are 4 times faster than hoppers, and then those hopper minecarts get delivered to where they should. These hopper minecarts are getting unloaded at double speed, meaning 2 items at a time. After just a couple seconds, everything is sorted. We got valuables into the valuable chest, food into the food chest, and all of our wooden items are where they should be. So hoppers can only transfer 9,000 items an hour, which means that if we throw a stack of items in here, they would get drained out of this chest slower than if we were to use the system over here. This is 14,000 items an hour. The only real downsides to this system is that it's not silent. You'll hear a couple pistons and some minecart noises, but overall it's not annoying sounds. You're not going to hear a bunch of droppers, for example. As per usual, this system cannot sort non-stackable items like your gear or your enchanted books. If you want to sort those, then you have to use an allay sorting system. This system also won't sort 16 stackables, so things like signs or snowballs. Anything that the system can't sort, or if there's just not a place for it, it's going to end up in the overflow chest, so this is where all of your gear and your 16 stackables will end up. So what is a category? Well, a category is pretty simple to understand. Basically, you have a double chest full of items. This can have 1 to 54 different unique items in it, and every single item that's in this chest right here, like oak doors, will be sorted into this slice of the system right here. So every slice of this system has its own unique category, and that category sorts up to 54 different items. So for example, we have our wood category with all of our wooden items, and then we got our food and vegetables category, and then we have our valuables category. So you can make as many categories as you want. You can mix and match, you can customize. If you want to learn a lot more about item categorizers and their pros and cons versus other types of storage systems, then check out my previous tutorial where I show a much smaller scale version of this that sorts about 5,000 items per hour. This is a highly refined storage system. Tgoodclay sent me the original design a few months back, and we've been working on refining it ever since. This is the version 5, and it has improved drastically. Here is the original design, and this is what we refined it down to. Overall, it turned out great, and a huge thanks to Tgoodclay for sending in the original design. A quick overview of how the system works, is that way you understand it before we get into the tutorial. Over here is the input chest. You can put any and every item in there that you want. We also have an off switch. That's really just so you can turn off the system before you unload the area. So we're dispensing hopper minecarts over here. They're picking up a few miscellaneous non-stackable items. That ensures that they only have a singular item type in them. And then they go underneath our category chest over here. As you can see, they're taking the category item out, and then they're putting it back in, and they're also getting rid of all of their filler items. So as you can see, those are getting unloaded over here, and those get recycled back to the beginning of the system. But as you can see, this is very well timed. They get unloaded just like barely before the next hopper minecart comes in here. And as you can see, we're also recycling all of the minecarts as well. Everything is automated with this system, so as you can see, it automatically churns off once it runs out of items. It's not just going to keep cycling forever. Also, if something ever does break and a minecart gets ejected before it's fully unloaded, that's also going to trigger the system and notify you with an optional note block, and that'll also churn off the system. We also have this here. That way you can drain any additional items out of these chests, because this whole line needs to be just for your hopper minecarts. If extra items get in there, then they're just going to be shot out on the floor down here. And let's hop into the tutorial. For your convenience, there's a full materials listed down in the description of the video. That way you know everything there is to build with. The build area is mildly large. It's going to be 15 blocks long, 9 blocks tall, and 1 block beneath underneath the ground. The default system is going to be a total of 18 blocks wide. However, you can make it smaller or larger depending on your needs. Either way, you're going to need a minimum of 6 blocks on the left for the redstone, and then I have 10 spaces set out for 10 slices, and then you need an additional 2 blocks on the right side for some redstone. This build doesn't strictly need to be chunk aligned, but I would highly recommend it. That way you can avoid issues, because if you have a chunk border going between 2 slices like this, especially near the beginning, then that can sometimes mess it up. You could also have an issue if there's a chunk border going through any of these areas right here. We're going to start by building the brain on the left side, so go and buy a block on the corner and then just get yourself a redstone lamp right here. We need a redstone torch on the back side of it with a sticky piston facing to the side and a solid block in front of that, and then just a double chest right here. This is going to be your input chest, of course. We need a solid block here and here with a comparator facing into that block, and then a repeater down here on 4 ticks like so. Go ahead and grab a redstone torch and put it there. We need a solid block here with redstone dust, then a redstone torch, and a redstone dust down there. Now get yourself 4 blocks going out like this, and then another one up on the end. We need 4 repeaters, all on 4 ticks each, and just put another line of blocks going back to complete the loop. So redstone dust right there, repeater on 4 ticks, another one on 4 ticks, redstone dust, and then a 3-tick repeater on the end right there. Finally, you need yourself a sticky piston facing forwards, and then an observer facing into that. We're going to get a solid block right here, and then a piece of redstone dust. And now for the cart dispensing system, we're going to go over here next to this piece of redstone dust and place in a dispenser facing forwards, and then we're going to mine out all of these blocks right here. So place in 3 pieces of powered rail, and then a lever right there, 2 pieces of normal rail, a powered rail right there, and then we can get ourselves in 4 pieces of regular rail right here. Now place a hopper on top of that dispenser, and then a double chest right here, hopper on top of that, a single chest, hopper above that, and then 1 more hopper to the side. We're going to get ourselves a double chest placed in right here, and then a single chest next to it with 2 hoppers above it, and then a double chest above it like that, and then 7 hoppers going out the backside. So that should line up with this final block right here. This is for your filler items, and this one is for your hopper minecarts. Now for the safety system, place in 2 solid blocks right here in an upper slab. Replace the bottom block with a piece of redstone dust. Then we need a comparator reading from a chest right here with a hopper facing into its side. We're going to place in a sticky piston right here with an observer facing upwards on it, a temporary block, and then an observer facing downwards right there with a note block above that. Now for a rail line, we need 4 slabs going to the right of this hopper right here, and then another slab right here with a lever on it, 1 powered rail, and then some rails going over to the hopper, of course. We need 2 more slabs coming out of here with a powered rail right there, and then 2 rails going up. We're going to get ourselves another slab right here with a piece of sand and a cactus. This is going to break all of your minecarts so that we can recycle them in the system. And then just go ahead and surround this area with some glass blocks, or really any block of your choice, and a lever right there to power that rail. To finish up this corner, you need a solid block here, here, and then in these 2 locations as well, so just that general shape. And then go ahead and get yourself 2 powered rails going up, and then you want another one just to get that angled. Place in a temporary block and 2 more powered rails. You want this one to be facing to the side. We need a lever right here to power all of that, and then get in yourself 2 pieces of glass, a button right there, and then another 3 pieces of glass right there to hold in the water. And the final thing to do for the brain is to come to this back corner over here. We're going to place in a target block at this location, and then a dropper facing up right next to it like so. We need a solid block right here, and in these 2 locations, a solid block up there and up like that for this general shape. And now we need a comparator right here, redstone dust, and a repeater right there, and then just grab yourself a bunch more hoppers and connect it to this hopper line over there, and this is going to recycle all of your filler items. Also make sure that you place in a solid block directly above this rail right here. And now for the easier part of the build, we're going to build up 1 slice and then just replicate that slice as many times as you want. So we're going to start at the front of the build, lined up with our input chest and next to this lever, and go ahead and place down 3 double chests on top of each other like so, with 3 hoppers going to the back, a double chest above that, and then 2 hoppers on the top of it like so. We want ourselves an upper slab right here with a comparator going out, and this is going to be going into a sticky piston facing upwards like so. we need an observer facing away from the build, sticky piston right here, and then a stair block. It does need to be a stair. And now we're going to go downwards a little bit. So we need a sticky piston facing forwards right here with a solid block on its face, and then 2 more solid blocks in these locations. Now place an observer facing forwards right here with a double chest in front of it, and this is actually your category chest. Now go down to the bottom and place in a piece of soul sand right there, and then 2 solid blocks to the side and a solid block up like so. We now need a hopper facing into that block, and then a hopper facing to the side towards the brain. Now place in a couple of upper slabs right here, and then we need a repeater right here on 4 ticks, a solid block above that, redstone torch, solid block right there, another upper slab, and then a repeater on 2 ticks going into a solid block of a redstone torch like so. Now we're going to place in ourselves a piece of glass right here, a hopper above that chest, and then we need ourselves a couple of diagonal solid blocks going up like so, and another one here at the very top. Put a pane on top of that stair right there, and then we need ourselves 3 temporary blocks coming out, and then ourselves 2 trapdoors stacked up on one another just like this. This will help orientate the minecart correctly. That might have been a bit hard to keep straight, so here's a side view of what each slice should look like. Build up as many of these as you want in your storage system. I'm going to be building 10 of them, and this is what your system should look like once you've built up all these slices. They're all identical and they're all right next to each other, so it should be a really easy build process. Now, this slice on the end doesn't actually sort anything, it's just for overflow, so we're going to go ahead and remove the chest on the end here, replace that hopper with a solid block, get rid of this observer and these 4 blocks right here. We're going to replace the soul sand with a solid block, and then we want a solid block there, 2 solid blocks there, and then get yourself some glass on the edge right here just to hold in the water. So it should look a little bit something like this. And you might also want to remove these chests temporarily just to make it easier to navigate in survival. While this area is opened up, you should probably replace the blocks underneath the observers with some stairs. That way there's less of a chance of your minecart glitching into them and getting pulled into the piston, which is a bug that can happen. So basically we need a water source here and here. That'll actually create an infinite water source here in the corner for you, and then just place one every other block until all of this is flooded in. That way we get bubble columns on all of these. Now place in a water source here, and then one more in that corner, and then just every other block going along the whole rim of this thing until you get to the edge. Make sure this button is here, that way the water doesn't flow out. To prep the area, you want to put in some slabs above all the soul sand here to get rid of those bubble columns for a moment, and then break out like every 3rd glass block. Okay, now that we've deconstructed the farm, we can construct it. So we're going to place in a powered rail here, and then a detector rail there with another powered rail there. Getting yourself a regular rail right here. Now we're going to start building this all the way along the whole length of the build. So go ahead and place in another rail right there, and then 2 powered rail, 2 powered rails, and then you want some rails up here, 2 powered rails. Keep doing this process until you have all the powered rails installed and they're in this nice sloped manner. Once all the powered rails are properly installed, you can go ahead and get rid of these extra rails on the end, including the slabs, and then you can fill in all the extra glass blocks up here, and you can get rid of these extra rails right here. Now that all of these are installed, we need to install them up here as well. So place in a line of temporary blocks behind all of these repeaters, and now we're going to place in ourselves a piece of regular rail, powered rail, and regular rail, and keep on doing that going all the way across, and you shouldn't have any issues with the rails, messing up or going in the wrong directions. And this is what it should look like once they're all done. So go ahead and remove these extra rails and the blocks underneath them. Now we can go ahead and place all the comparators back there, and we also need a line of solid blocks directly above all of those comparators as well. Now that all of these are installed, we're going to slope them up this hill right here, which seems daunting, but it's pretty easy. We're just going to place in 3 pieces of regular powered rail, and then an activator rail at the top, and 2 more regular rails up here. Now you are going to need another line of temporary slabs up here, and that way we can loop these around and then go back down the hill. So an activator rail, and then 3 powered rail, and that should connect up just fine, and just keep on placing these in, 1 line at a time. That's all the rails for the back of the system done. Now you can go up here and remove your extra rails and slabs on the front. Now we just need to power all of these. So above your hoppers, we need to place in a temporary block block and then a glass block. And then on the front of this glass block, you need a lever that's going to power the powered rail and the activator as well. So do that for the entire length of the build. To power all of these powered rails down here, we need to break out a little trench, and then we're going to place in some levers underneath these blocks. And all of those levers are going to power those rails up here, and then we just need one final lever right here to power those two rails. While we're here, we're going to place in a solid block next to the block with the detector rail on it, and then another block right here, redstone in these two locations, a block right here and a block right there, and one more piece of redstone dust. And of course, you also need to go ahead and reinstall all of your category chests, so just put those back. And now it's time to install the rail line on the front of it. This is usually pretty easy. We're just gonna get 2 layers of upper slabs at this layer right here for some rail lines. However, there's a slight difference because of rail directionality. So if you are currently facing north or south while looking at your build, then you only need 2 sections of rail right here, and I'll show you how to do that. But if you're facing east or west while looking at your system, then you're going to need an extra layer of blocks right here. The north-south method is really easy, so all you need to do is place in a temporary rail right there, and then regular rail, and basically we're just going to keep on snaking this along all the way down the build. And you should end up with something that looks like this. Now we can remove all of the lower rails down here and just place in a line of powered rail. Once you have this lower rail installed, we're going to come to the end over here, place in a solid block with a lever on it to power those extra ones, and then just remove these extra rails at the top. So for east-west, it's a little different. You need to have 3 blocks of space on the front, and then we're going to go out by a block over here, have our block up and our lever. Now install the lower power rail line first and connect it all the way to the end. Go a couple extra blocks off just to make sure. Now we're going to start by placing down a powered rail and then our little lines of regular rails. This is the only way to do it that I found that actually works without all these things messing up. So as you can see, it's pretty easy, but it does take a little bit extra effort. And now we can get rid of these rails at the top here. You can power these any way you want, but I find that the easiest way is a solid block and then a lower slab, and then just place a lever on the underside of that to power it, and of course do that for all of them. Make sure this main rail line connects back to your cactus, and you should be good to go. The final things to do to prep your system is to fill up this double chest with a bunch of miscellaneous and non-stackable items. Stone shovels are generally going to be the cheapest one, so fill up that double chest, this single chest, both of these hoppers, and I'd say about half of this chest. The hopper minecarts are of course quite a bit more expensive, but I would suggest starting out with maybe 27 or so, and then you can just throw them into here. The larger the system, the more carts and the more items you need to put in there. And the final thing to do is to set up your category chests. Now before that, I would either put some item frames or some signs on the front of the build, that way you can tell which one is which, and then on the back also put in a sign or an item frame, that way you can more easily tell which category chest you're working on. These chests can have as much empty space in them as you want. They can be half filled, or you can have 5 items per category, or even just a single item. By the way, if you see any minecarts left at the top of the system, that's perfectly fine, nothing to worry about, it'll be handled by the system. So I set up my system just with a bunch of little tester dies here, and as you can see, it is running just fine, smooth as butter. All of these ones are getting the items that they need, and nothing is in the wrong locations. As you can see, we got items flowing in all the time. It is a beautiful build, and hopefully you enjoy in your Bedrock Edition worlds. If you enjoyed this tutorial, then of course drop a like and subscribe to help us reach 600,000. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys down in the comments and in the next one.